When it comes to planning for your future, you want someone you can trust. At Prairie State Investments, Mark Pfeiffer is here to help you build a plan that fits your life, your family, and your goals. Whether it's retirement, college savings, or investing wisely for tomorrow, Mark has the knowledge and local commitment to guide you every step of the way. Don't leave your future up to chance. Call Mark Pfeiffer at Prairie State Investments today at 815-668-8131 and start investing with confidence.
No need to go far and wide. Let Hometown provide. Hometown Trophies and Embroidery in Lena can help turn your ideas into reality. From awards, engraving, and gifts to custom apparel and business accessories, they have you covered. Visit them today or give them a call at 815-369-9185. That's Hometown Trophies Embroidery. Let your vision become their masterpiece.
Transform your outdoors with Baber Service Company. Landscape design and construction, including retaining walls and patios, mulch and rock beds, seasonal cleanups, and so much more. Serving Joe Davies, Carroll, Stevenson, Winnebago, Whiteside, Ogle, and Lee counties. Enhance your outdoor space with expert craftsmanship and attention to detail. Contact Baber Service Company today at 815-291-6334.
Welcome to NUIC All Access, joined by Jay Doyle and Joe Merdian. I'm your host, Kyle Kampmier. Man, guys, it's been a busy couple weeks here. We have a lot to recap on, but, didn't really mean to string out our episodes this long, but here we are. And, we got a lot to look forward to. But first, we're going to start off with a recap of the fall sports scene. Obviously, we're going to start in football, where once again we crowned 2 state champions, Amboy becoming the first team to reach the IFA state finals in 4 consecutive years and 4 times in total. And they were also the first time 3-time state champion in IFA history, completing that three-peat that they had. Amboy beat Polo 30-20 in a game where the NUIC was featured in the state championship game for the 9th time in the past 6 seasons. Since the IFA expanded in 2019, an NUIC team has been at the state championship game every year, and in 3 of those years, they have doubled up as the champion and the runner-up. And once again, we had that again here this time around. Joe, I'll start with you. What were your insights? Obviously, that game was a great game, 30-20. But give us what your thoughts are on the Amboy Polo matchup down there at Monmouth.
Yeah, so it was a game, guys, as you said, real good game, real heavily, tightly contested game throughout. The game was tied at halftime. Amboy was up 8 going in the 4th. Again, all you can ask for going into a state championship game. Polo jumped on the Clippers early, 14-0. Amboy never panicked. They tied the game at 14. And then I felt like Amboy just kind of wore Polo down a little bit that second half. Polo never gave up, scored late to make it 30-20, but missed the 2-point conversion because Polo still had the 3 timeouts there with a minute to go. But all in all, great ball game. 2 very hard-hitting ball clubs, 2 great defenses. And again, about all you can ask for a state championship game. And probably of the 6 state championship games in IFA history, I'll say it's probably the second best game we've seen to date. So hats off to the Clippers for the three-peat. Obviously something not easy to do. And hats off to Polo for a great game on last Friday night at Monmouth College.
Jay, you were also not in attendance, but you were keeping up with the game. What did you see? What did you like about the game? I mean, this one packed a lot of energy in it for sure.
Well, I think anytime you get to watch 2 great running teams run the football with athletes on both sides, it's going to be a great game. But piggybacking on what Joe said, Polo came out 14-0, then tied. You could just kind of feel it slipping away, though, late in that 3rd quarter. And then when Mumford went down, you just kind of felt like, they ran through their shots. But give credit to Polo. They came back, late touchdown. The 2-point conversion, yes, was a big one with the 3 timeouts. But, again and again, the name you heard this year when it was crunch time, and the name you're going to hear going into next year, Jose Lopez, with another outstanding game of not just finishing runs, but finishing runs falling forward, making multiple guys tackle you. He was the difference maker the last 2 games for the Amboy season, in my opinion.
Yeah, Amboy's Jose Lopez definitely reached player of the game status. 29 carries, 284 yards, 3 touchdowns. The all-state players, you had 6 on combined, 3 on each side of the ball, really stood out and really made huge impacts in this game. Cody Wynn, 3 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown. Also had some big defensive stops in the secondary as well. Evan Flanagan for Amboy was absolutely huge defensively from his defensive end position for the Clippers. Trevor Stenzel was a monster on the offensive line, helping to open up some big holes for Jose to get through as well. And like you said, on the other side of the ball, Mercer Mumford, 19 attempts for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, only 5 of those attempts happened in the second half after getting injured in the third quarter. But man, what a great start to a state championship game for Polo, for Mumford. Obviously, Damon Rao came up big when it mattered. 4 receptions for 53 yards, matching a season high because, like you said, mostly a running team, but also on the defensive side of the ball, had some huge plays as well. Wyatt Placknell was great at fullback, helping to make those holes for Mumford, and then made his presence known on the defensive line as well. And then JT Stevenson continued to do what we had expect him to do. And then when Mumford went down late in the game, then they really started to open up the passing attack, and we were able to actually see what he could do offensively in that route. Went 9 for 15 passing for 133 yards, 1 touchdown. The 1 interception was an amazing play by Ryland McNinch. The tip on reading the ball first, tipped it up, caught it off of his own tip, and then ran it down to like the 5 or 6 yard line as well. But JT Stevenson, huge game there. Jordan Reed, 3 receptions, 46 yards and a touchdown as well. Joe?
Yeah, the other thing with that too, let's back up 1 game, 1 week on Lopez there, guys. We talked about how dominant he was this polo game. Go back to the semifinal of the game that was, everyone was hyping as the game of the year there. Amboy and Millersville meeting for the second time in the semifinal. Lopez had 30 carries in that game for 200 yards. And then again, how about the Amboy defense, guys, in that game, holding the Milledgeville Missiles to 8 points? Like, I don't even know how you put that into words. I mean, just Amboy stepped up when they needed it most, offense and defense. And, Amboy definitely earned this. Wins over Millersville and Polo in a 6-day span.
Yeah, it was awesome to see, no doubt. And obviously, like we said, Mumford's going to be back next year for Polo. Lopez is going to be back along with Evan Flanagan for Amboy, along with some others, Tanner Welch, Caden Heath,
Trevor
Colt
Stenzel.
McCoy, Trevor Stenzel. So we got a lot of guys returning. I think they had 6 returning starters on offense and 5 on defense returning next year.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
They will be the and I think you guys have already said it in other things. They'll be the odds-on favorite next year to be the top team. But before we go much farther, talking to Mumford, talking to Lopez, whether it be 8-man and we just watched the 11-man game, and everyone talk was on Schlichting and Wild and Mumford and Lopez. Let's talk about up front for both teams.
Yeah.
Of what they were able to do all year of getting the job done, whether it be the Lewin offensive line, the Polo offensive line because everybody knew, in this setup, Mumford was going to get the ball, and Amboy has kind of a 2-3 guy threat, but just what they're able to do up front of getting guys to the second level, we always talk about. A credit to those guys because they don't get them open holes in the yards without them.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
for
Joe.
sure. Yeah, no, I'm just going to say, I just agreeing with everything Jay said there. We'll talk about that Lena Stockton game in a little bit in a state championship game, but that, Wild and Schlichting were great, but it all starts up front with that offensive line. And, the scary part is for Lena and Amboy, for their opponents next year, most of those offensive linemen are coming back for both of those teams. So that's
Yeah.
definitely scary. But some of the holes these guys made, and again, you also got to credit the coaching staffs and when you talk about the offensive line guys, because Pole's offensive line isn't exactly big, but just the schemes and the way they teach these linemen to block, some of that's coaching as well, guys. You can be big, but you still have to block the right guy every time too and know your assignment. So it's just more than lining up and, moving the guy in front of you. There's so much more that goes into that when you're preparing for a football game.
Oh yeah, I mean the good teams are not just going to put block a guy in front of you type scheme. They're
Right.
gonna have the head up scheme. They're gonna have the reach schemes. They're gonna have the pull schemes. They're gonna have the down block schemes. All that stuff where it's pre-planned on where you got to go, that really creates that hole or tunnel, so to speak, for the backs to get through. And without that top level coordination, if you're just playing we'll block the closest guy to you type mindset, you're not going to find a lot of success.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way.
No, and when you're putting the athletes that they're putting it out there, whether it be Lopez or Mumford or Schlichting and Wild, the difference of those games is simply your DB or free safety is having to come up in a gap that's probably 8 feet wide and continue to make a tackle on them. And we've seen in all of these games, after continual punishment, you maybe take not the best of angle to trade, maybe not hit them head on. And that's when these guys take advantage of it. And a credit to them as running backs, but it just getting to the second level untouched with the athletes that these schools possess is the difference between, the mid 500 and the above 500 football teams.
Yeah, for sure. So taking a look at Class 1A here, as we already mentioned, Lena-Winslow became the first Class 1A team to make the state championship 6 times in a row. Only the second team in IHSA history to accomplish that feat, which goes back to Addison Driscoll's run back in the early 2000s, where they made it 8 straight years in a row before closing their doors after a quarterfinal appearance loss. But Lena-Winslow also became the first 7-time state champion in Class 1A history, breaking the old record held by themselves. Lena-Winslow held the record prior to this year with 6. But taking a look at that, they picked up their 4th championship in 6 years, breaking the 2-loss streak that they had in 23 and 24. And they completely ran away from Brown County in a 58-13 win. Those 58 points also tied the Class 1A state championship scoring mark held by themselves as well from the 2019 team that also scored 58 points, which ironically was the first team that started this run of 6 consecutive appearances in the state championship games. Aiden Wild was player of the game with 22 attempts, 170 yards, and those 5 touchdowns. Alex Schlichting, 9 attempts, 146 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then in backup duty later in the game, Ryder Schultz kind of starting to exemplify what we might see next year out of Lena-Winslow, as he put up 4 attempts on 73 yards against Brown County starters with a touchdown as well. So pretty impressive performance there. Defensive wise, Jaden Schubert, who Coach A refers to as the Rev because he's the guy that's leading their prayers before and after games. He led the defensive attack with 5 tackles. And it wasn't Miles Mann leading the defensive attack this time. It was Merrick Mann along with Alex Schlichting, who both picked up 4 tackles apiece behind Jaden Schubert's 5. Miles did finish with 3 tackles, obviously was a huge effect in the game, creating the chaos that we have come to expect out of him, but there was a lot of mop-up duty behind him, too, after the chaos he created.
Yeah, Kyle, just to piggyback on what you're saying about Lena-Winslow's dominance, all 7 of those titles have been since 2010, so it's not like they weren't winning titles back in the 80s or 90s like some of these other NUIC teams. They didn't get their first one until 2010, and they've won 7 since then. And then, they would have been one of the favorites in the COVID year also. I know there's some other good teams around here, but they would have been one of the favorites as well that year. But speaking of the state championship game, it couldn't have started any better for Lena, guys. The whole Brown County to 3-and-out, and then they block the punt and they take over. I think it was right around it was inside the 5, wasn't it, Kyle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so
It was at the 5-yard line.
you know, you look at the last 2 games, they get the fumble on the kickoff against Stockton, get the ball at the 10. They get the 3-and-out against Brown County, get the block punt, take over at the 4 or 5-yard line. I mean, you know, I'm not saying Lena needed any luck by any means, but man, Lena starts games that way, they're going to be almost impossible to beat.
Yeah, the biggest thing with them is whether it be the Stockton game where people gave Stockton, a chance to beat Lee Win, and I don't know how many people gave Brown County a chance, but what you can't do is shoot yourself in the foot.
Right.
And fumbling the opening kickoff for Stockton, that puts you behind, and then you get that touchdown, and then it's like, right away the whole energy and and credit to Stockton, they came back and kept fighting, but that you just can't give away touchdowns against the Lee Win team. And then in the Brown County game, we knew kind of what was coming, right? Like that is the thing. And now going into next year, it would not shock anybody for them to be back. They bring their offensive line, they're I think 4 of the 5 offensive linemen back, including Dunker, who is the man amongst men when it comes to offensive and defensive linemen. And you bring that back already next year. And I know you don't want to talk, we can talk about next year. I mean, you have a kid in Schultz that touches the ball 4 times for 73 yards and a touchdown, and he's back, so you're going to just change names for Lee Win next year in the backfield, but I expect the same type of results. And there's going to be another group of running backs that's going to run all over the NUIC.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you're going to see a Ryder Schultz. You're going to see an Ian Geisman. I think we might even see a sophomore in Brody Cox, who has already been accustomed to some varsity experience, was a starter on that baseball team as well as a freshman, and did a lot in the JV level. He'll be a sophomore this year. He'll bring good speed to that backfield as well. He could be another guy in position. And then, whoever else Lena-Winslow has that can come up and just fill that spot. Obviously, like in all seasons, the off-season workouts, the commitment to that while also trying to play dual sports, which is a big thing for Lena-Winslow as well, because every one of these guys is at least a 2-sport, if not a 3-sport athlete. And then with that, just who's going to come out of the weight room looking like they're the next man up.
Well, and that's the thing, let's go back to 2010 with Griffin and who was this running?
Haas.
Haas.
Or Haas, I mean.
Yeah, and then you go back to, you go down the line, and then, how are they going to replace them? And then it's 2019, you have Ormiston and Bruce, right?
Right.
And then you throw in Dunker at fullback, and then how are they going to replace Wild and Schlichting? And it's like, they have guys where they change the game is, and we've said it, we've seen pictures of it, and you watch the still frames of it. Their offensive and defensive line set them up for runs to the second level for their athletes, and they do probably the best job of probably anybody I've seen on the 1A side. I mean, we watched the Byron game, and they set those guys up pretty good too. But when you're looking at what they bring to the table, they're going to regroup, reload, and be ready for next year.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't here or now, but even on that 2010 team, you had Seth Dasher too. Yeah. So you literally, that was the first time we really labeled a team as a 3-headed monster, and they had it that year, man. And then, of course, that 2011 team, talking about Joe, the COVID year being a year that we could have seen Lena-Winslow being state champs. Can't be remiss of a Fulton team that barely lost to a Princeton team that Lena-Winslow had also lost to. And then Akron was right there in the mix that
those
year,
3
too.
teams, that would have been a fun playoffs.
It would have been a ton of fun. And then that 2011 Lena-Winslow team was definitely the state favorite, and they got knocked out in the second round, albeit probably an injury to Quinn Haas was definitely a problem in that one there. But regardless, yeah, what they've done since, and now the argument is, well, they didn't do this in Class 3 or 2A. Well, you got to
Because
remember,
Class
one,
Class 2A, and that's where the thing is. I mean, the people that have understand things, Class 2A and Class 3 are different. I don't think Class 2A so much, but when you get to 3A and 4A,
Right.
and you see those teams where some of these teams in 1A, like a Lee Win, can beat you, Byron has that can stop that, and you get it by great linemen, great play on the offensive and defensive line, and in watching the Byron game in a 3A game. That's what you see at the 1A level, and that's what sets them apart.
Right.
But I get, it's like the argument you get with, well, this 1A team could beat this team. Just be happy that you won
yeah,
the 2A or the 3A, and everybody brings something, because that 3A team with Toulon, I mean, how many teams do they beat
oh yeah,
with how they throw the football? But defensively, they can't handle a
power run.
power run game, and that was their Achilles heel at the end.
Yeah. And their conference, we talked about it a lot on NUIC football, how great the Illini Prairie Conference is. I mean, this was their 7th trip to the state championship. Obviously, it's their 7th runner-up. But when you take a look at the teams in that conference, they've been at the state championship games a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They just can't get it. I mean, the last time a team won was Monticello in 2018 against Byron, who went into that game as the big favorite, and Monticello came out with the win that year. Of course, that was led by Cully Walter, who was in the Hall of Fame and used to lead all those Alito teams in the late 90s, early 2000s to a bunch of state titles and runner-ups as well. So not a surprise there, but yeah, when you watch what Unity did, I don't think there's a 1A team stopping that Unity team as far as their aerial attack. If 1A team were to beat that, they would have to continue to run the ball down their throats with efficiency and effectiveness. Let's also be reminded, too, that last year that Unity team lost to Althoff 55-53 in a shootout game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, it just the concept of what makes teams what they are, and it just like, you watch the unable to watch, but now able to watch this coming week, the 5A, 6A, 7A, 8A. They're just different teams and programs when you get to that level. I mean,
you mean the Chicago Catholic League in East St. Louis?
East St. Louis is all by itself. And I have a picture on my phone that I still show people when they want to talk.
Oh, you mean with Prairie Ridge?
Yeah, where it's like a guy here and a guy here at the coin toss. It's like you can find it online, and I just look at him and say, that's different.
Well,
right?
East St. Louis's nemesis was Kerry Grove, who runs, a wishbone, double wing T style offense, and they got knocked out. So, yeah, I think you can expect Eastside to run through everything here.
Yeah. Different.
Yeah, they're different, all right. They just recruited new 2 kids from Althoff for next year.
Why not?
I'm sorry, they didn't recruit. They transferred in. My bad. Anyway, all right. So, yeah, going back to like Stockton, it's one of those things where, we're already starting to see it across social media. Man, that was the championship game, blah, blah, blah. We need 1 through 32. I cannot say it enough. Even if it were 1 through 32 seeding this year, Stockton and Lena would not have been able to meet up in the state championship game.
Right.
They would have been placed on the same side of the bracket, even in 1 through 32. Now, the only difference is that Camp Point Central would have moved into that bracket with Stockton and Lena-Winslow, who was the favorite coming out of the South bracket, but Forreston and Galena would have dropped into that bottom bracket. That could have made things a little bit more interesting.
They would have liked that much better.
Oh, yeah. But we would have lost that semifinal matchup between Calhoun and Brown County as well, because they would have met up in the second round rather than the semifinals.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big difference there for sure.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it's not a popularity contest. Even though I know the one year we knew Lee Win was clearly the number 1. They got I forget what year that was. They got the 2.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody was going crazy on like, how, Kyle, can you put
How can you put Lena
Lee
Winslow
Win
at 2 when
as
they're
a
the number
2 when
one
they're the number
team?
1? It's like it's not. It's based on playoff points
Right.
and
Yeah.
record. And you can have next year Lee Win set themselves up in week 1 and 2 that they played Darlington and Wilmington, and let's say they split those games, or if they come out 2-0, it's not going to hurt them, right?
No,
But if they lose a game or 2,
it still ain't gonna hurt them.
it's still not going to hurt them long range. But playoff seeding, it could make
Right.
them drop down, and people are going to say, well, is not Lee Win the best team? It's like, well, yeah, we know that, but they go by record, not by. It's kind of like prediction and
When I've already, yeah, exactly, predictions and projections.
yes.
And I've already seen where, some people have already started to argue that, we need to find a better way to seed the game. And a couple coaches were like, we need to look at, strength of schedule, which I've always been a proponent for, but it's not always idealistic because of the fact that you can't get all these teams to play an open schedule. And some of these teams are coming out of closed conferences, so there's no true way to find
Right.
out how strong their schedule is until they're already in the playoffs, matching up against different teams, which I understand that as well.
Well, I think, and I could be wrong, I sometimes am, but if I remember right, I'll admit it if I am, and I could be wrong, but I remember, I think Wisconsin, because I only know this because talking with Toby back in the day, you'd have your area before, beforehand who's in what, and because they have it by enrollment, right?
Yep.
So you get in the playoffs and you meet with the other 12 coaches or whatever who's in your quad, and you vote 1 through 12. That's a different way of doing it. Now, there's a lot of things that could come good and bad with that, but because you see it in whether it be not football, but volleyball, basketball, baseball, softball, where coaches vote, and that it's like, but I think they do it in person. Like you got to do it in person, and it's different doing it on a computer and doing it rather than sitting in a room with a guy who and normally towards the end it's a moot point, but your 1 and 2 seed does matter. But I think Wisconsin does it that way. I could be wrong, but I know they used to.
Well, and I know for a fact that Ohio and a bunch of Eastern states use a different style of a strength of schedule. They don't go off of a rating style, but they look at you get a point system where they give you points for wins against teams that would be in your classification. You get additional points if you beat a team that's in a classification above you, or lesser points if you beat a team in a classification that's below you. But those points then add up to the end of the season win totals, plus your wins, plus your opponent's wins, and it creates a point value, and then it seeds you that way. And actually, there's Eric Kiefer is a assistant coach for Ottawa Marquette on the football staff, and he runs IVHSS on Twitter, on X, and he had that model put together this year, showing week to week to week how that seeding process would have worked, because he's from Ohio originally, and I know New Jersey's another school or another state that uses it along with some others, and then I know out west there's like California uses HS ratings, which is the platform I use to get all of our projections and ratings from. But they utilize that, and then I know there's a couple other states that utilize max preps, which I don't like the max.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, Joe,
Yeah.
someone's still not going to be happy.
Well, I think
And
at the end of the day, you still have the same champions, so.
Yep.
And I'll argue
I just think the way Illinois does it, it's fair across the board, as far as we can't say you're favoring this team or favoring that team, or not this coach voted this way, this coach voted that way. There's none of that the way Illinois does it. And I think that is what makes it, I don't know if I want to say legit, but you can't say, oh, somebody favored this team over this team. It's strictly by wins and then by playoff points. And that keeps it fair across the board.
You know where you're at.
And in talking to Well, I didn't talk to Coach A about it, but he had posted about it on X. He goes, this is one of the few things that IHSA does that does not need to be touched, because this is a perfect way of putting a playoff format together.
Right.
Yeah, and I think win total, you don't have to add more teams. I think the amount of teams is fine. You don't have to mess with anything, and that's the thing. It seems like everybody always wants to mess with something that's not broke sometimes, just to change it or to make it theirs. But it's like, you know,
I'll be honest, I am interested in somewhat of a strength of schedule type format just to get your
well,
better teams to higher
well, you
seeds.
look at next year
Yeah.
with Lee-Win schedule in Wilmington and Darlington, and you'll have another team that doesn't and get 2 wins over maybe going 1-1. It can affect you playoff wise, but
That's another
at the end of
section.
the day, it's not going to matter where the best team that can run the football in November
Yeah.
goes. It's
Run teams win in November.
it's going to come down to execution, and I think where you're going isn't as big of deal sometimes, because if it was that, then they would do it the different way of every other or the higher seed would have it. So that's a different story, different day.
Yep.
Volleyball.
Let's go to volleyball. So Stockton and Coach Matty Pontius reached the state tournament for the second year in a row. They came away as the runner-up for the second time with a full team full of underclassmen. So here's a team that had to replace 4 of 6 starters from a season ago, and the results are still the same. The scary part is they return everybody next year. They didn't have a single senior on the squad. They did run into a buzzsaw against Cisna Park. Cisna Park was making their 3rd consecutive state finals appearance. They were the 3rd place team last year and the year prior to that. Their only loss this year was to 4A Bolingbrook in straight sets. Outside of that, they were 40-1 on the season. Obviously, Stockton lost in straight sets, 25-11, 25-14. But it was still an awesome run. Against Norris City, Stockton was led in that semifinal match, which they won in 3 sets. Sadie Johnson had 14 kills, 2 blocks, 8 digs. Taylor Haas had 9 kills and 3 blocks. Cager Wright had 30 assists with 7 digs. Ireland Mensendijk also had 8 digs. And then you take a look at the state title match. Taylor Haas had 7 kills, Cager Wright 10 assists, Peyton Goswick 5 digs, Ireland Mensendijk had 4 digs. The offensive opportunities just weren't there in that state championship game, as Cisna Park just, it was their year. It was their year, and they rolled it. And, hats off to what Coach Pontius and the Blackhawks were able to do. I think that going into next year, between them and Galena, we're definitely going to see some powerhouse volleyball once again.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I was going to add on to that. It's like what we found this year at the end for volleyball. Stockton really good, going to be good, not one senior on the team. And Galena, also a ton of underclassmen. They're going to be good moving into next year, and they're going to be the standard of volleyball in Northern Illinois again. And I know people, hear that, but I mean, when you have very few underclassmen, I know Galena had a couple freshmen starting, and Stockton with all underclassmen. I mean, you are going to have to step your game up if you want to be in their category, because they're not going to go anywhere.
No, and we'll have to get Coach Pontius back on here, possibly next week, to get another conversation with her. Want to definitely get Coach Payne and Coach Aaron on as well, to talk about their level of success, what they've had, but just bring the whole fall sports season to a close. But, kind of recap their thoughts on how the season went, what they look forward to going into next year. And it should be a lot of fun. I have not been able to talk to Coach A yet, but I did talk to Coach Payne on Friday at the state championships. He's definitely on board. Also got to talk to Amboy head basketball coach Tyson Powers. Told him that we would definitely be getting a lot more basketball coverage this year. So excited to do that as well. And we'll have to get him on the show at some point too.
Hey guys, what about just real quick on Stockton here? I mean, what a fall sports season it was for small school
Oh, yeah.
Stockton, Illinois, with what the football team did and then the volleyball team. I mean, I know it's happened before. I remember Dakota's had some times like that where the volleyball team's coming back from state when the football team's playing in the quarterfinals, but it's rare, guys. It really is. I mean, I think it's something that, I just hope these kids in this community appreciate it, because for a small school like that, there's no guarantees the next year. We can talk about next year and who's going to be good and who's going to be, rated number one when the year starts, but there's never any guarantees. You want to enjoy the moment when you're these small schools for sure. And what a fall sports season it was at Stockton.
100%.
Yeah, and we had that conversation when we had Coach Pontius on. That was one of the things that we had brought up. What's it like walking down the hallways when you get to the school for practice and you have the excitement of the volleyball program where they're at and the football
Yeah.
program where they're at. And I know there were some people that had reached out to me, not publicly, but in straight messages. They were kind of interested to know when the last time a school had won a state title in both fall sports. And like you said, Joe, it was 2011 Dakota.
Yep.
When the girls won a state title in volleyball and the boys captured that in football a couple weeks later. But it is the only time it has happened in the NUIC. And like you said, what a year that was. And again, what a year Stockton has had this year as well. And, I think taking a look at basketball, I don't know where they're at strength-wise in basketball. Neither one of their teams are really where we talk about them a lot. I think the girls' basketball team is probably a little bit better than the boys. But when you get to the wrestling match, we're definitely going to hear about Lena-Winslow Stockton on the wrestling match coming up, as well as a lot of the kids that are state championship caliber wrestlers are going to be from Stockton, with Maya Luke, Eli Larson, Oliver McPeak, and Harrison Bowers there. And I know there's a couple other names that are slipping my mind right now, but they're all going to be Stockton guys that are definitely going to be in that top 10, probably top 5 state rankings. Maya Luke, Eli Larson are definitely will enter this season. If they haven't already, they'll be ranked number 1 in their weight classes. And I'm interested. Oliver McPeak should be, if not top 2, at least top 3 in his weight class as well. And then Bauer's going to be up there too. And I know there's a couple guys I'm missing. And so I'm sorry I can't get them all, but man, yes, it's going to be a fun winter for these for Stockton as well.
Speaking of winter sports, Joe, you've gotten out to some girls basketball games. What are some early finds that you have found?
Yeah,
this
so
year
I've
so far?
seen a few games, caught a couple on TV. Probably one of the biggest things, guys. Eastland girls are off to a 5-1 start, Forest and Holiday tournament champs, and their only loss was to a powerhouse Stillman Valley, I think by 10 or 12 points. So great start for Eastland. They bring 4 starters back. And of course, you got Trixie Carroll for basketball this year, who replaces the lone star they lost, Olivia Kleinfelter, in the starting lineup. So, boy, guys, Eastland, a team, obviously when we talk boys basketball, we talk Eastland, but girls basketball, they're a team I think we're going to be talking about come regional and possibly sectional time.
No, 100%. That was they finished that tournament. That's always a good tournament to play in, and Stillman Valley again will be one of the top teams in 2A in their conference. They just are a good basketball school in girls basketball. But East Dubuque is another one that caught my eye. They're 4-1. They went 4-1 and they're played over at the Warren tournament, which Winnebago won, which they're a 2A school. But their only loss was to them, and they were able to beat up Lee Wynn, Warren, Galena, and that. So East Dubuque was another school that you look at record wise, sitting at 4-1, Eastland 5-1. I think the standard has been set with those schools, but I think it's always going to come down to where's Pecatonica girls with what they bring back in Dakota. And I know their tournament got, I don't know if they're going to reschedule or what. I've not heard, but their big day on Saturday got snowed out
Yep.
for a couple there. But I think when you look at those 4 teams, are probably the 4 top, along UC Polo, and that polo team with 5 seniors.
Right.
They're a team up and down. I know they wanted game 1 to go a little bit better, but they bounced back, and they will be there, I think, at the end also.
Yeah, talking about Pecatonica, I saw them beat Pole that opening night of girls basketball. That was a very impressive win by Pecatonica. They didn't just beat Pole; they beat them by, I think it got to a running clock, Jay. I think it got to 30, real close to
Yeah,
it.
it did.
So and you look at Peck's 2 losses; they're sitting there at 3-2. The defending state champs, losses to Rockford Christian and Elgin St. Edward. That's their 2 losses right now. So, Peck with Coronel, Riley Alexander. I mean, they're gonna be in the conversation all season long here. Of course, Polo with Cam Jones, Polo's all-time leading scorer already, just starting her senior year. So Polo's going to be in the mix as well. And then obviously we talked about Eastland, East Dubuque.
Yep.
So I think those are some of the teams we're going to be keeping an eye on. Jay, what's your thoughts on River Ridge Scales Mound? They're off kind of surprising, off to a 1-2 start. They're bringing most of their girls back. And only lost a close one to Eastland,
Yeah.
which a game we thought could win either way. But little surprise there, that loss to Pearl City there.
I think they'll be there at the end. I think
Right.
what you find right now is your senior dominated teams or experienced teams will play well right now, and we're seeing that on the boys' side with Dakota.
Right.
I don't know. They look, coming out of the gate, they look mid-season ready. As you said, Eastland with 4 starters coming back, and then you had Trixie, who's a senior. They're ready. I think River Ridge will be there. They got off to a terrible start at Eastland. I think they were down. I was watching that. It was like 16 or 18-2, and then they came back and tied it, and then ended up losing. It's just a shooting thing, right? It's early on shooting woes that I've witnessed for my own team, but yeah, it was a couple games that were rough, but it's like you have that early on in the season to where you just sometimes it gets in your head, and it's that, and I think that's a thing with River Ridge. I know without a doubt they're going to be there at the end, but just some early losses that kind of they were leading against Pearl City, and maybe Pearl City is going to be a team that is the surprise team of the year, but River Ridge Scales Mound expected to win that game, got the lead, and then a turnover at half court up. I think they were up 1, turnover at half court, gave up a layup, and they were down 1, and they end up losing. And there's a lot of talent there. Now they got to learn how to play without Lakin Haas, who was their focal point as a senior, but that's life. Every team's going through it.
Right.
Peck has to learn how to play without Reger, and you go down the line of seniors that are missed that teams have to play without, and it's those teams that are gonna forget about it and play well come January is going to be the difference. But that Peck Rockford Christian game, Rockford Christian now, because of the waiver, that is the case. They're a 1A team this year. So that plays into the fact of watching down the road of Rockford Christian team, who's going to be playing many of the teams in the area, and see how they're sitting, I think at last I looked the other day, they're sitting at 3-1.
Mhm.
So that'll be an interesting matchup where they fall. But I think early on, the first couple weeks, you'll see some upsets, and it's the teams that have some experience and bring a lot of experience back are going to get some wins that maybe are kind of shocking. But that was the biggest thing with me. We talked off air, was the River Ridge Scales Mound starting slow because they
Mhm.
bring back 4 players.
Right. Yeah,
You know?
for sure. So, yeah, I think those are kind of the girls' teams we'll be keeping an eye on. And you brought up a good point about Rockford Christian. I'd forgotten about that they were 1A. So, I'll be able to see where, a couple weeks, guys, will be talking about, they'll be releasing the subsectional assignments. So we'll have an idea where some of these teams are going to fall when it, comes to regional and sectional time.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you see Lutheran get bumped up to 2A because they won their sectional semifinal, and they return a bunch of kids, including, a legend in Soraya Parker.
Right.
And one could argue that they might be one of the early favorites in Class 2A, but then you replace that with Rockford Christian, who has a very good team as well.
A team that was above 500. I think they were like 18-11 or something like that last year, and bring back their starting group.
Yeah.
You know, so they're going to be the same type of team as Rockford Lutheran, and that's what we talk about in that whole different scenario of waiver and non-waiver, because they haven't won a sectional game. It's like you look at all these teams who hasn't even won a regional game, and you don't worry about them, but you worry about a school that can recruit, that they haven't won a sectional game. So that's for a different story and a different rant. But early on, I think your early favorites, of course, are Eastland. We're going to see where East Dubuque, they got a lot of girls back from last year's team. Polo in the South, you're going to look at, just because when you start 5 seniors and you have Cam Jones, you better win, right? Like
Right.
you better do that. And you know, I think, you know, when you look up north, it'll be your Pecks and Dakotas will be the leaders of the mix up there. And you know, I don't know what's going to happen over in the West, right? I mean, that's probably the biggest question mark, because Galena hasn't played like Galena,
Right.
and you know, you have Stockton hasn't played great, but you know, there's talent there, and River Ridge has not stepped up to them, and Kyle has something.
East
Kyle's-
Dubuque.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
And
Sydney
that's what I
Schoenhardt.
said.
Right
Sydney
now, you'd
Schoenhardt
say
is
East
stepping
Dubuque
out
and
big.
Right now is East
River
Dubuque's
Ridge,
your early
Scales Mountain
favorite,
probably
right?
get-
I mean,
yeah.
East Dubuque is your team that is off to a great start, and that, so, but it's like you just wait for the Galenas to be Galena, right? You're
Yeah.
waiting for that to happen. But yeah, your early favorite in the West, with the question mark, is, can East Dubuque sustain what they have going on right now?
Gosh, it's going to be exciting. I am excited for basketball season. I'm not a basketball person, but man, am I excited for basketball season. That's why I have you two here. You guys are basketball nuts.
Joe's a basketball guru.
I don't know. Let's not quite go that far.
Come on, you're the 8-man guru. You could be the basketball NUIC
You're the basketball
guru.
NUIC guru.
I've been around the game a while. We'll see what I can get. I'll do my best.
Yes. And on the boys' side, you know, switching to the boys' side, I think, no surprise, Dakota went back to back and won the Scales Mountain tournament. They bring back, they're loaded with pretty much everybody back. You know, had guys sprinkled in on the all tournament team, but again, with bringing everybody back, they look already in midseason form of what they do. And it'll be interesting. I think they play in the toughest conference.
Oh,
I think that's that one, but that will help them.
Yeah.
When you look at the North Conference with Dakota, Forreston,
Peck and Lena.
Pecatonica, and you throw in Lena when they get their legs come conference play.
Yeah.
Those four are going to be a battle.
And really, Pearl City is not a pushover in that division either, by any means.
They got one of the best players in the conference, in Kemple to watch play basketball. I always talk last year, the Pafford from Warren was my guy to just, if you're just watching basketball and watching a natural basketball athlete, Pafford from Warren was probably my favorite. Kemple from Pearl City is like that guy, with just being able to get to what he wants to do when he wants to do it. And they could, and last year they snuck up and beat some teams you might not thought of, but they're another team that can play with teams.
Well, and you're going to see a guy like Bryson Vagley become a big counterpoint within what Pearl City does as well. And then we've even seen Will Burchin have some good early season success so far on the basketball court. And you combine some of those outputs with what Lane Kemple can provide, and like you said, Jay, they can sneak up on anybody at any given point.
But yeah, I think we can agree North is loaded. I don't know, other than you know Eastland's going to be Eastland down there in the South, Joe. Who are some teams?
I would think Fulton is probably the team that's best equipped to challenge Eastland. Now Fulton is off to a surprising 0-4 start, played in a very, very tough Orion tournament. Lost to Orion, lost to Monmouth United, lost to Rock Island Alleman. So, losing some teams that are going to be pretty solid, in their own right. I don't think anyone should look at Fulton's 0-4 record and think that Fulton's going to be a bad team. You know, they got Landon Liu, Jacob Voss, who was named all-tournament team in Orion. They got a freshman that's supposed to be really good. D'Angelo Dodd, I think is his name. So Fulton will be there at the end, especially in the South. But yeah, Eastland is the cream of the crop there, you know, coming off that second place finish at state. Of course, Parker Krogman, probably going to be a first team All-Stater for the Cougars. And then you got, you know, Zy Haviland, you know, in the middle there to do some rebounding, block some shots. He also did some scoring at different times in the postseason last year. I think the key for Easton will be how they replace Allender and Spears at those guard positions. Of course, Wyatt Carroll, I think he'll take over the point guard reins for the Cougars. So, and then you got a kid in Anderson too. I like him at guard. So Eastland's going to be Eastland once again. And they got a big test, guys, to open the season. They play Forston this week. So that'll be the season opener for both teams. And
Where's that at?
I think it's at Eastland, but I'm not for sure. But Forston, they got one of the best players in the area too, in Kendall Erdman, guys. And it's a new era for Forston as they bring in Robert DeVries as the head coach, of course, a Forston legend in his own right. So, you know, Coach DeVries, he'll have, you know, he'll have his team ready to go. So that's a team that probably we need to be talking about more as well too in that division with Peck and Lena. Dakota's Forston. So Bear Sioux wins that early season matchup. Eastland and Forston as well.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Coach DeVries can do. Like you said, a lot of talent there for Forston. Obviously, with Erdman coming back and a couple other guys that they have, it's going to be a lot of fun to see the success that they can have. In that whole North Division, you know, we talk about Dakota. I think this Dakota team, while they lost in the sectional semifinals to Eastland last year, this year's team's better than last year's team. You have the depth with Austin Stuckey and Kason Mayer. Liam Burke is back. If you guys remember, he had fractured his ankle coming down wrong against Forston.
Right. So they did not have him in the sectional in the postseason, correct? He was out.
Nope. He was out.
Right.
So he's back in the lineup. They junior Braden Larson adds another tall guy in the front court at 6'1".
I know he, you know, I was at the Skills Mountain tournament a lot, and he is one number 14 Larson. Yep. He came off the bench, but he was probably my most surprised player. You expect Stuckey and Mayer to do what they're going to do, right? But I think the number 3 there, in just watching from afar, the energy that he played with and took them to a different level in a lot of games. And you know, he is someone that helps them out a bunch, because when you look at the teams you're going to have to beat and play, you're going to need size and you're going to need some energy, because when Leewin comes to town with their big guys and what Pecatonica brings and
right.
Forston, it's going to be a great North matchup.
Well, and we saw it out of their JV squad last year. I mean, another guy that isn't a starter right now, but is going to be another guy that could pick up big minutes is Cone Lawler as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you could see it out of that team at the younger level. I mean, they had some of those guys could have actually been brought up to fill actual roster spots at the varsity level, and they just didn't or weren't utilized if they did. But yeah, I think Coach Bart's definitely got a lot more to pick and choose from this year to provide much more depth. And I was actually a little bit surprised that they didn't show up on the top 25 on Nesto Hoops by Aaron Britton.
They will be there.
Yeah. I think they'll find their way there rather shortly, if I was to guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of early season matchups, guys, Peck, they're going to open the season with their traditional non-conference game against Winnebago this week too. So that's always a fun, you know, rivalry for those two teams. You know, just couple miles down Route 20 there, the old Peck-Bayer rivalry. So good early season test for Pecatonica there as well. So we'll see how that one turns out as well.
Joe, you have a list of our all tournament teams from the Thanksgiving tournaments. Run us through some of those names while we have that here.
Yeah, I mentioned for Fulton, Jacob Voss, he was all tournament at the Orion tournament. The Scales Mound tournament, several NUIC players. Well, it was all an all NUIC tournament basically. Warren making all tournament team. Bryce Van Raalte. Galena put 3 players on there: Drew Kennings, Sam Amaya, and Owen Hafel. Scales Mound, Caden Durr made the all tournament team. For Dakota, you already mentioned these guys, of course, Kyle, Austin Stuckey, and Casey Meyer. East Dubuque.
Kaysen.
What's that?
Kaysen.
What did I say?
Casey.
Oh, I did. I guess I can't read my own handwriting here. See,
it's
this
okay.
is why.
It's okay. I just want to make sure it's right.
Yeah, no, you're right. I apologize. East Dubuque, Ethan Schulting, River Ridge, Sam Reif, and for Pearl City, Lane Kemple. So that was your all tournament team representatives from the NUIC for that Scales Mountain tournament. So a good tournament, a good 3 wins for Dakota there. Wins against East Dubuque and Galena. So, and of course they beat Orangeville, but 2 nice wins there for Dakota in that tournament to kick things off. So yeah, it's going to be a fun season for boys basketball, guys. I can't wait. We really haven't talked about that West of it, or not the West Division. The West Division.
Yeah, the West.
Guys, that's been a battle the last few years. I look no differently this year. Scales Mound, East Dubuque, Galena, Warren's going to be solid again. I think West Carroll starts to throw themselves into the mix a little bit.
Really, Joe? That's your. You don't normally hear that they got a team, huh? Or not a team, but normally they're towards the bottom.
Yeah.
I have not stayed up on that. They got a good basketball team this year.
They're going to be better for sure. I don't know if they're quite ready to compete with the Scales Mounds and the East Dubukes and Galenas, but they're definitely going to be much better than they have been. So they started out
positive.
Yes.
Yeah. They went 2-1 at the AFC tournament.
Good.
So that's a good start for them. They got a couple winnable games on the schedule here coming up as well before they get in the meat of the conference schedule. So, and you never count out River Ridge and boys basketball. They'll find a way to be competitive. So, again, that West Division going to be very competitive. Stockton, once they get their guys back and going, I'm sure they'll be competitive as well. So that division, there's just no easy nights in that division when it comes to boys basketball.
No, and we're blessed again this year we've talked about the talent of the names of the boys, but even on the girls' side, the girls' side who has a ton of talent also that I don't know. I just always think you can go to find any game any night, and that's one of the things I do, and I love doing. COVID did do one good thing, I always say, and that everybody had to put a recorder in the gym. So I could sit down every night I don't have a game, and I like I said, I turned on the Peck Polo girls game, and then I'll turn on the whole Scales Mound boys tournament and watch that when I wasn't there. It's like that's the one positive, and it's like every night anybody can go on and watch a lot of these teams play, and there's going to be a bunch of great games coming up, and there's always going to be, like you talked about West Carroll, we talked about Pearl City and girls that has some wins already that are kind of turn your head, that there's always 2 to 4 teams every year that kind of sneak up on people, and it's starting for another year like that.
Yeah, the other thing, guys, we're only a couple weeks out from those Christmas tournaments.
Yes.
And I tell you what, I'll be in a seat. Forson tournament's one of my favorite tournaments.
That's where I was just gonna go.
I love the Forson tournament. But you look at the NUIC teams that are going to be there, guys. Obviously, Forston, Polo Milledgeville, Dakota, Warren, Stockton, River Ridge, Pearl City, Lena. Those teams all get to take their shot at the big boys. You got Oregon, Byron, Bago, Genoa, Kingston from the Big Northern. Of course, a very, very good Sterling Newman team will be there as well. So it is going to be a great tournament to see how some of those, especially those better teams that we've talked about, the NUIC, if they get their shot at a Byron and Bago, how they match up with those teams. That will be some good basketball for
When it's
sure.
great, one of the cool things about it is Forreston's been going on since I was a kid.
I think
Yeah.
it's going on
And
60 some years or something like that. Yeah.
what's great about it is not only Forreston who puts it on.
Right.
So kudos to them because they also host the girls where we go. And I know
Right.
it's a lot of work for administration and
Oh,
finding
yeah.
people to do it. And, you throw in, we have 8 or however many teams we have, they double it for boys. Um, the amount of work that goes in behind the scenes to make sure that if you're a part of it, you make sure you tell their administration, thank you, because it's something that you don't find. And sometimes you got to travel here and there for a tournament. And when you can bring all those teams and all the top talent to one spot and it's in Forreston,
Yeah.
you know, that's big when sometimes if you don't have anything, you're traveling to 2-3 hours away to travel for a game or two, right? You're going to
Yeah.
get the mix of all the top teams in the area on the boys side right in Forreston.
Yeah. And then you'll have the Eastland tournament, where you'll have Pecatonic and Eastland both there, so that'll be fun, I'm sure, along with the likes of Galena. So that'll be a fun tournament as well.
Yeah, that Eastland shootout or Eastland tournament, they usually bring in some big hitters for that game.
Yep. Hey,
Or for
another
those games,
side,
I should say.
guys, Eastland hosting the Eastland shootout on December 6th, this coming Saturday. I haven't seen the whole schedule, but I believe Eastland is scheduled to play Brown County. So Brown
Yes.
County going to get another taste of the NUIC. They already got a taste of Lena, and now they're going to get
Yeah.
to play one of the top NUIC basketball teams in Eastland. So just a side note, guys, last year that the feature game ended up being the state championship game. Eastland played Chicago Hope. So I'm not saying that's going to be the case this year, but just kind of throwing that little tidbit out there. But Brown County's supposed to be real good in basketball this year too.
They are. They were listed in Nesto Hoops top 10, I believe, to
Yeah, I
start
think
the
so.
season.
And it's always fun to see, and whether you want to say it or not, the north-south matchup, right? Like
Right.
you always want to have that north-south matchup where you get to see our best kind of versus their best, and and see where the stars align.
So here's your schedule for that Eastland shootout. 11:30 will be East Dubuque against Milledgeville. 1 o'clock's going to be Warren versus Hinckley Big Rock. 2:30 is going to be Comanche, Iowa versus Sandwich. 4 o'clock is Riverdale versus A-Town, Abingdon Avon. 5:30 is going to be Peoria Notre Dame against Unity Christian Academy out of South Holland. And then Eastland Brown County's the nightcap at 7 o'clock.
Wow, that is definitely a wide array of teams there headed to Eastland.
And when you host it like that 7 o'clock will be like an 8:30 start.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be at a couple of these games for sure, I think, because that Eastland Brown County game for sure I want to be at. Very intrigued and interested in that game, no doubt about that.
No,
So,
should be a fun year, guys, of basketball. I can't wait for it to get rolling here. So
yeah.
Boys have just started pickup. Girls are 2-3 weeks in, and and we'll do our best. Kyle will do his best to get everything shared for tournament schedules on the webpage.
Yeah, I'll have to start putting together. I'm going to start putting together a rating system for girls and boys this year. Do something a little bit different. Last year, I almost just utilizing max preps. I damn near nailed the sectional seedings on our projections. One of the I think it was girls. I had absolutely 100%, but Or no, maybe it was the boys. It was the boys, not the girls. The girls, we had Dakota flipped around with somebody else. I can't remember who, but regardless, I think it'll be a lot of fun. And we have some teams here that definitely can make the run to get back to the state finals or be one of those teams making a deep run. No, obviously we should be able to see a team vying for a shot at least super sectionals in that or that Elite Eight type level. So should be a ton of fun.
Hey guys, one other side note, talking about classifications. When the IHSA released the initial enrollments, Pecatonica was going to be in 2A. Then once they redid everything, Pecatonica back to 1A now at 299, one number under the cutoff, guys.
Somebody got a raise in Peck, probably. They got somebody to move away.
I mean, so that's huge though for Pecatonica. I mean, let's be honest, boys and girls.
Well, that's the same argument we heard going back to football out of Wilmington, who was the Class 2A state champs who clocked their way through the entire playoffs.
Right.
They were a 3A semifinalist the year before, coming off of a 2A state championship in 2023. But this year, I mean, they had a great team. And obviously, like we already stated earlier, they're going to play Lena-Winslow in week 2 this upcoming year. They too started with like a 432 enrollment, and then ISBE made like 2 adjustments, and they dropped to 406 and then to 400. So they were the last team.
They lost over 30 kids.
They were the last team. They were the last team into the 2A field, and of course, there's a lot of talk that someone in Wilmington fudged a number somewhere to get them down, but. Honestly, I blame ISBE for not being prepared going from the two-year enrollment cycle to the 1-year enrollment cycle the way that they should have been.
Yeah, correct.
I will say this, and I'm probably on the lesser side of it because I know it's hard to find games, but I'm always one too. I like the find 2 or 3 non-conference games to play.
Yeah.
I know everybody loves the closed conference because it guarantees you
so many
playoff teams because of just the calculations and all that. But there's nothing better than seeing teams being able to match against other teams where, when you want to talk about 2A or 3A, it's like, okay, next year you're going to get a Wilmington team. I don't know what they bring back team-wise, but you're going to get a 2A Wilmington team coming into, I think the game's at Lena, correct?
The game is at Lena.
Yep. And then you're also going to get one of the top teams. They won state this year in Darlington coming. Right. I don't know do you know where that game is at?
Darlington.
At Darlington. So Leland will be going to Darlington and at home versus Wilmington. I don't think there's anything better than that because then that really finds out where you're at and finds out where everybody else is at, of teams. And I think, like I said, I know everybody loves a closed, conference, but for football, I always like seeing the first 2 or 3 weeks. Back in our day, it was three games and then 6 conference games. I always liked that just because you got to play somebody different and it was fun.
And speaking of Darlington, obviously they were the Division 6 WIAA state champions in Wisconsin. Obviously Darlington has a long history of success. They were in like their 12th state championship game in school history. They, too, also beat another perennial small school Wisconsin power in Edgar, 42-14 in that state championship game. Edgar did play an Illinois team earlier this season in Ottawa Marquette. Marquette lost in the first round of the 1A playoffs. They beat Marquette 9-6. So, obviously very interested. I think this year's Darlington team and this year's Lena-Winslow team would have been a great matchup. And obviously there's already a lot of hype building around it for next year as well.
Yeah, no, that should be fun. And like you said, Jay, what a way to open the season for Lena-Winslow next year.
Yeah.
So, Joe, do we see a Polo Amboy week 1 matchup this year as well?
I was told that's not a guarantee that'll happen.
Okay.
So sources close to the vest here, but
When
it's
do
not.
when do the schedules come out for 8-man?
They should. It sounds like they're working on them now, but they will be out sometime in January.
That's what I thought. It's going to
Should
be
have
like
them released
early
no later than
mid-January.
February 1st, absolute latest. So we
Yeah, I think I got them right around right around January 14th, not Valentine's Day, right
Yeah.
around January 14th or 15th from Coach Lawler last year. So
Yep.
we should get them before long.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see, and I know Amboy probably would not be against it, to see that, your non-conference for an Amboy to be a Polo and teams that you want to see them play, right? Rather than, because I know Polo brings a lot back. I know Milledgeville lost a ton. I don't know who that other team will be in that conference next year, but
West Carroll.
West
West
Carroll.
Carroll. It'd be great to see a Milledgeville or a Amboy West Carroll.
The Coach S Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I want to see.
Yes. Those are games you want to see in the regular season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be breaking that down on here, Colin, in a couple months. The 8-man schedule. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll definitely be doing that for sure. I was talking to Coach Jason Kirby from West Central and former Ridgewood coach, now Bureau Valley coach Pat Elder at the state finals this weekend, and both of them were really impressed with Amboy. And then the fact that they're returning so many guys. I think Kirby's actual response was, I mean, gosh, you're returning 11-man type numbers. I mean, they got 6 starters on both sides of the ball coming back. I mean, that's hard to do in 11-man, let alone 8-man.
Yeah, for sure. So,
but
we're gonna make this all episode not talking about Amboy going 11-man.
No. There's no room for it right now. We'll bring that up in another conversation yet down the line, but
not today. We're not going to talk about it.
No, we'll have pros and cons on what enrollments should look like. Obviously, there was a good proposal this year to have more of a tiered multiplier system as well. That did not get passed into December's votes either. But
for 8-man?
No, for 11-man. That was for 11-man, but for the private schools. And because there was 2 different multiplier change proposals, neither of them passed the commission legislature to move into the voting process. But after watching granted, small school football is definitely a lot better this year. We had actually 3 games straight of public schools. 4A, I can't really argue. I mean, Montini has the multiplier, and they're in 4A, and they went up against Rochester, who is an elite public school team there, and that was a 47 to 33 game in favor of Montini. Montini was the favorite going in, and for Rochester, it was definitely a team that Coach Derek Leonard didn't feel was. He felt that they were a team that was a year early getting to the state championship game. Still a very good game there, I felt. Albeit Montini led it the entire way, but when you take a look at 5A through 8A, it's CCL, and East St. Louis is in there in 6A.
Jordan Lynch don't have any problem with it, though.
Jordan Lynch continues to put up the conversation that, well, these kids have to do this, and he makes it sound like they're suffering. I mean, it's like eating out of a golden bowl at Mount Carmel. I mean, hell, they got you go to their bathroom sinks in their restrooms, and they got little logos emblazoned on the sink handles. Like, come on, man. There ain't nobody starving for their next meal at Mount Carmel. Let's be honest. So I don't know what the broken record is. This is 2 years in a row that Jordan Lynch has complained about it, but it is what it is.
And I do see where he's coming from. I always hear those schools complain, I always then look up tuition to go there. And I remember a couple of years ago, I had someone they were complaining down at a girls tournament, and I'm like, well, when tuition is $25,000 to go to the school, you know,
It's going to be hard to
it's
get
gonna,
kids.
yeah. Well, not only that, but I mean, it's like you're getting
Good money.
good money for
You
your
have
kids.
affluent.
To where tuition at Mount Carmel is down. It is only about $15,300. So,
Folks, you can go to UW Platteville for that price, by the way.
yeah. So yeah, that is. The problem is whether it be 8-man to 11-man, what team should go. You're not going to change anybody's mind of what they think.
No.
And public-private, you're not going to change anybody's mind what they think.
Right. Me personally, I'm not. So I'm on the smaller side. I don't want to see separation of public-private. I just think that we need a better multiplied system in place.
And I would agree. You're not going to have it. You're not going to have enough. And if you're going to have them play, you shouldn't get it taken away. Private should not have it taken away. I've said that for
Correct.
how many years? I mean, probably 5-6 years. We've talked on here and whatever, and that's always been my stance. Like, you don't need to get teams away. You just should always get the multiplier, or you just let everyone have the same rules, right? And I guess they're kind of trying to do it because I did see maybe I read it wrong, but they do have the one transfer as part of the voting.
Yes.
So we may get that,
Yeah.
Joe, where
That-
everybody can jump at least one time with
Yeah.
no penalty in their 4-year high school career.
Hey, why not? We already got NIL in there. We might as well have the one transfer rule too.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing: it will make it 10 times easier if you allow it, rather than knowing that it's going on
And hiding it.
and
Right.
either hiding it, or I had this conversation at our girls thing because it was brought up. Long story short, brought up, and the conversation I just said was, well, I don't think it's it's a school issue. The school should go after each other. It's not a parent or a coach thing, right? Like, you just nothing's going to end well for it.
Right.
But the issue is when you know what's going on and schools don't go after it, and then they go after something else. It's like, okay, well, what is allowed and what's not allowed, right? And if you just allow it, that each kid gets one freebie, they can go wherever the hell they want. Well, then that takes everything out of it. If this girl wants to leave Polo and come to Dakota, or that girl wants to leave Polo and come to Orangeville or wherever, there you go. You can do it, and you don't have to hide around it.
Well, and it helps too when you get those areas where you have teams struggling with numbers and you're locked into a school and you're not sure if your team's going to have a team. And let's say that you are a kid this is your sport and you're looking to go to the next level and you need to find a place to play. This allows that to open up that argument to, okay, you don't have to move to go to your neighboring school so that way you can continue playing. And in that reference, I can be on board with that.
Well, that's
because
what I said.
It's fair across the board.
Well, then everyone is treated like it.
Right.
So, not that you have to agree or disagree with it, but if you're not going to hold the rules for everything, and that's the big thing with the public-private is the private, when you're 300, you can recruit your team,
Right.
and it's like for public, you just get what is in the district.
And that's where I want to see more of a tiered multiplier too. I mean, the one that was proposed I felt was too weak. I think it needs to be a little bit stronger. On the same factor, I think the straight multiplier that was proposed to multiply teams at 2.5 was probably too strong in some cases, because you're going to have smaller schools like your Newmans and your Marquettes who don't necessarily need to be bumped up. Any other classifications would be definitely not Newman so much, but Marquette possibly would kind of struggle with that.
Right.
Newman, I think, could probably hold their own for the time being, but
Well, my question is always then what are you going there for? Is it for academics or sports?
right. Well, both those schools, I know a lot.
I mean,
of
again,
people in
you're
those
not
schools.
telling them, Kyle, that they can't play.
Right.
You're just telling them because you haven't won a sectional game.
I think that needs to be revisited more than anything.
That does.
If football allows you to win one playoff game across 3 years to get the multiplier, then I think that if you reached a regional championship,
one regional game, or regional
I
championship.
think if you reached a regional
Right.
championship, not win, but reach a regional championship, then you should be hit with the multiplier. Because let's be honest, you got to go through at least one, if not 2 rounds to get to that regional championship game. Leaving it for a sectional semifinal, I think is just, to win a sectional semifinal.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous.
That's harder to do than winning one round of football playoffs.
Right.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And that's the thing where it's not, and it's going to change again, because then when this came out, you have everybody still complaining about it. And now the privates feel they got wronged. And you have how many teams? We brought it up, Rockford Lutheran. I mean, what would Rockford Lutheran do in 1A this year?
Oh, they'd be the odds-on favorite to win state.
They would
Right.
win state. They would win state. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a shadow of a doubt that they would not win state or get there for sure, because there's not anybody in the north that can play with them. But then you have that, and now they won a sectional game, so now they're up in 2A, which they're still going to have a great shot at regional sectional. But I mean, now you got to go through the Byrons, and you got to go through all those schools.
Which Byron's going to be good. Winnebago's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You throw Lutheran in that mix, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And obviously, those are all going to be conference games on top of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but you're playing
your like competition.
Rather than unlike competition. So that's always my thing when we're talking. The complaint isn't always whether I get to play or not. It's whether I'm on a successful team or a team that can do it. And it's like, well, okay, well, what's your other side of it?
Yeah.
Because that's the same thing for whether a team should go from 8-man to 11-man or whatever. It's like, well, if we have an issue with it, just lower the number on, if you want to make it true small school, and this is probably popular opinion, but if you want to make it true small school and it's about the kids just getting an opportunity to play, then just make to get into the 8-man playoffs lower.
Yeah.
Make it 200. And everybody over 200 don't get in. Everybody under 200 gets in. But then everybody would complain, well, I shouldn't. But that's going to be the same argument as people saying a 90-kid school of Milledgeville who is playing small school football, and we got to also get in a dictionary, Joe and Kyle, what small school football is, because you have 5A schools thinking they're playing small school football.
Yeah.
Right? So what's your definition of small school football? But when you're looking at it, you have a Milledgeville team of 97, would have been, if they went playoffs, 1A, Polo, enrollment-wise of, what's your enrollment?
Polo's actually one of the bigger ones they've had, 180 this year, but that's going to drop.
180, right? And then you have, the argument was Amboy's over 300, 303, which wouldn't make them 1A, they would have been
2A this year.
Their argument is, well, the one school don't give us much. You can't help that, right? In any co-op,
Right.
What happens in 2 years if Peck don't get anything from Duran?
Right.
They're still going to have the enrollment.
You still get their enrollment, whether you get 3 kids from Duran or 4 kids from Duran or 10 kids from Duran. You still get their enrollment. So that's the thing of, do you lower the mark of who can get in the playoffs then? And people are going to then complain that, well, my kid don't get it. Well, your kid got to play. You got an opportunity for 9 games to play. He just doesn't get to play in that because this is for quote unquote small school football.
Yeah. And Jay, I'm sure you'd be on board with me in this too. You can make the argument too, the 1A cutoff for basketball should be lower, because it's by far the biggest percentage wise of teams in the 1A.
Kyle and I went over this, and I know Kyle, if his memory is good, he'll still tell you. But here's what a common thinker would think. You have X amount of basketball teams in Illinois.
Yes.
If you're dividing it into 4 classes, you would do what? 25,
25.
Right?
Instead, it's 27, 27, 23, 23.
Yeah, there you go. I knew Kyle would know it.
I don't understand it.
Or they don't even divide it right.
I don't understand it. Never have, never will.
So
I feel like at one point it was bigger than 27% for 1A. I want to say it was like low 30s at one point. But I
Yeah, I
could be
think
wrong on that.
when I looked at it, I'm pretty sure it calculated out to 27-27. So you had 54% were 1A, 2A, 46% were 3A, 4A.
And if you're looking out, which I don't feel they do, when you're looking out for the small school, if anything, it should be turned the other way.
Right.
You know, so the smaller enrollment, smaller schools should get a better chance, because there's a big difference between a 100-kid school and a 300-kid school.
Huge difference.
You know, then compared to a 900-kid school and a 1,200-kid school.
Before
Right.
long, we might have a 5th or 6th class added.
Well, yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, we're already talking in football. It should go to,
Yeah.
6 classes rather than 8, because it's,
Well, and that's one of the things I look at. So, 3A football, the cutoff this year was 594.5. The biggest school was Benton, Illinois, down in Southern Illinois. You look at 3 or 4A, and that cutoff was just under 1,000. So some of those kids that played, or some of those schools that played 4A football, are dropping into 2A for every other sport.
Right.
And I look at it as 1A, 2A, in essence, should be about the conglomerate of what your 1A, 2A, and 3A schools are for football. Your 2A in other sports should be where your 4A and 5A with a little part of, probably more 4A, 5A should be in 2A. Or 3A, I mean. 4A, 5A, parts of 6A and 3A, and then parts of 6A through 8A are your 4A schools.
Yeah.
Which, if they did a true split, 25, 25, 25, would put that more online than the 300, 700, 1,600, and then 1,600 plus.
and that was one of the things that completely off basis when it came out. And I'll just say, it was Lon. Lon said that was one of the biggest things he'd seen in it, that they did that. He said that's an X factor, and I'm like, because he's playing that same thing, and he goes going from, he said it was generally around 270, 265, 270.
284 was actually where the cutoff had been.
Yeah, for
For
like
1A.
for 1A, like a year, but he said some years it was like 270,
Yeah.
stuff like that. He said he goes, you don't understand how many teams and what that brings in at the 300 level. And it's like, I didn't think I then looked into it and seen it, but, he's been around a lot longer than we have, since, 20 some years. And, you look at things like that, but yeah, you would think we would just go 25, 25, 25, 25. Or if you're going to make it different, you'd help the small school side of it rather than the big.
Right.
So backing up just a little bit, Max Preps classifies small schools as schools with enrollments of under 1,000.
There you go.
Gee.
There's our definition.
I laugh. When it comes to Illinois football, I laugh at the schools that play 4A football and they consider themselves small school. And it's like, but you're not. But
No.
according to Max Preps, they are. So 1A through 4A is small school football. 5A through 8A is big school football, according to Max Preps.
Yeah, well, you'll never get me on board with that one, Kyle.
No, I see it as 1A through 3A.
Yeah.
If you have 600 enrollment or less, you're small school football.
Yeah, and you look at the change from 1A to a Byron. Look at the difference in schools of that to a Byron and 3A. I mean, Byron is much different than a lot of your 1A schools.
Oh,
in your thing of considering small school, big school. To me, they're a big school.
They are.
In theory, but not Max Preps.
No, but even in enrollment wise, Byron's only like 450 kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't have much more than what Dupec had. Actually, they're less than what Dupec has collectively.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know. It goes back to when you have a program put together, you're going to get the players. And then on top of that, you might get players that move into your district because they want to be part of that success.
Right.
And to be quite honest, I don't think you see a whole lot of it until you're more in the metro areas. I mean, obviously we seen a little bit of it. I mean, the star quarterback for Byron and their leading tackler for Byron are both Aquin kids that had to find a place to go, and Freeport wasn't going to be an option for them, and they decided to go to Byron, and it's worked out for them.
Right.
But they've also made that move to go to Byron too. Whereas, like you said, a couple Aquin kids went to Eastland, some went to Orangeville, others did go to Freeport.
Well, and that's why it would also be easy. You don't think of those things when it comes to the waiver, but those are things that when you come to the waiver would make it a lot easier rather than, like you said, the Akron kids that went to Byron, they made the move. It's like, well, you wouldn't have to move if you had something happen to your school, something like that. You get the one-time waiver and you use it.
Yep.
Rather than coming up with something or having to pick up your family and leave.
Yeah.
So another story, another day. We're in basketball season, Joe.
That's right.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. And, obviously we're going to get a lot of episodes moving forward. Joe, we're excited to have you on for the ride as well. So welcome to the team.
You asking me to come on here.
Oh, absolutely. So we'll go back to Jay. Are we able to go back to a weekly schedule process now? We were doing about every other week here, between your busy and my busy for football season. And now we're going to throw Joe into the mix as well. So Sundays always work best for us. And we should be able to get back to our regular weekly program schedule for winter sports and the spring sports. And, anyway, like I said, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So, like we always say, get out to those games, root for your teams. As always, root for the NUIC.